Welcome back to the Charlie Cook Cricket Podcast. Now, we have seen another Joe Root masterclass. We can't keep seeing that he's so good. He's just so good. I cannot comprehend how good he is every time I watch him get England out of trouble. I mean, Ben Stokes gets so much praise for getting England out of trouble so many times. I think Joe Root's done it double the amount of times that Ben Stokes has done. I'm joined with Jack today. We are going to break down the game and go through everything that happened. Jack, one question I want to ask you. Is Joe Root the greatest England batter of all time?
That's probably one of the easiest questions. I think he definitely is now. Just the stats that are on today, that he's now the 54th international 100. He's the leading run scorer in ODIs and tests. Like you just said then, he's got us out of trouble more times than we actually appreciate, I think, because he hasn't had the superhuman freak innings like a Ben Stokes at Headingley, but just the consistency, the way he constantly gets us out of trouble like today. I actually thought today was probably his finest ODI innings in terms of where we were, and it was his normal character innings, but he sort of played a little bit out of character towards the end with some sort of baseball shots and opening through cover. So yeah, easily our best of all time.
Yeah, I mean, the man just thrives when we're 10 for 2. As soon as we're 10 for 2, that's it. He becomes the greatest batsman anyone has ever seen. It's when we're 200 for 2 and he just kind of, he lets it kind of all fall away. He never cashes in on a flat deck. He's always got a really difficult one that he has to score because he almost just thrives in those positions. And today was no different. We should start off with West Indies innings, though. I thought they were a lot better today than they were on Thursday, whenever the other game was. I mean, it's not hard to be better than they were on Thursday. It's one of the poorer performances that I've seen from a West Indies side, and to lose by 250 runs or whatever it was in an ODI is going some. But Casey Carty, 103 of 105, I thought he looked really good. He's coming off the back of some runs against Ireland. Shea Hope with 78, Brandon King with 59. All decent knocks from. The only thing that I'll say is that they probably should have scored more runs.
Yeah, they left runs out there. They faced, I think it was 14 balls they had left, and you look at the outcome of the match, if they got another 25 to 30 runs, then it would have been a lot tougher chase. They set a platform at the halfway stage to get 350 plus, but a combination of sort of bizarre sort of throwing their wickets away towards the end. They didn't utilise the fact that we had Jackson Bethel to bowl. So it was sort of poor game management from sort of 35 overs onwards, really.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I thought Saqib Mahmood bowled really well. I thought he bowled really well in the other game as well. And I thought he actually bowled quite well in India as well. Going back to that series just before the Champions Trophy, I was upset not to see him play more in the Champions Trophy because although he does have a bit of red ball pedigree with him, he feels like he's a very skillful white ball bowler. And I do think that is something that England lack at the moment, of having someone that has that white ball bowling ability.
Yeah, 100%. I was very impressed with him towards the end of last winter in the Caribbean. He was probably our best bowler there. Like you, I was quite sort of annoyed he didn't get much of a go at the Champions Trophy. We persisted with like the 4 tall seamers, but it looks like now with this sort of refreshed approach with Harry Brooks' captaincy, he looks to be almost the leader of the attack now.
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't. He probably wouldn't have played if Jofra was fit, which is the most bizarre thing, because you would imagine that they want to go in there with Cast anyway. And he's probably the one that's benefited from Jofra's injury. For me, he has to play in most of our white ball games. Now, I think he's a slightly better ODI bowler than he is T20 bowler. But certainly ODIs, I think he's got to be one of the first names on the team sheet, because he's really good in the power play, and also he can bowl at the death, and we just do not have death bowlers. You lose that Sam Curran that started to do it towards the kind of this end of his career rather than at the start. He was starting to get better at that death bowling, but Cast can't do it. Potts is okay, but it's white ball specialists I just think we lack. I think Saqib Mahmood is one of them. Adil Rashid takes 4 for 63. He becomes the highest, the leading wicket taker in all international wickets for spinners for England. There's a lot of caveats in there, but 412 wickets, 13 wickets, whatever he's picked up now, he's no mean feat. He's just special, and I really hope that he makes it to the 2027 World Cup. He's got to now, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of very similar to Joe Root in the fact that we maybe well, I don't think we underestimate him. I think he's maybe underestimated across the world as the leading sort of spinner in white ball cricket. I do think he's got another sort of 2 years left in him. I think that 2027 World Cup probably is going to be looking like the last tournament for a lot of our sort of white ball players, I feel, but there's still 2 years to play and a lot to play for before then.
Yeah, I mean, I love Rashid. I think he's fantastic. But if he's not going to make that 2027 World Cup, then you should be looking at other options like a Rian Ahmed or whoever you want your next wrist spinner to be. And so that for me just means that he has to make that 2027 World Cup because we're just not looking to the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. If there's not a clear plan for him to be involved in the World Cup, then like you said, we're sort of wasting time and taking the opportunity away from an Ahmed or other spinners around the sort of circuit.
Mm. Um, that was the tail of West Indies. Yeah, I mean, at 205 for two, they should have scored 350. I mean, that was at 35 overs. 350 just should have happened. And again, that is a completely different game if England are chasing 350. When it came to English chase, two ducks from Jamie Smith and Ben Duckett at the top of the order. We were 2 for 2 at one point. Joe Root and Harry Brook came together. They put on a partnership of 85. Josh Butler gone for a duck. Bethel couldn't do what he did in the last game. The one thing that I'm a little bit worried about with Bethel, and he scored runs the same way in New Zealand as well, is that he's kind of scoring runs when there's not a lot of pressure on. They're
Yeah,
very, very small sample size, very kind of early in his career, and I'm not expecting us to go and save us like Joe Root has done today. But when the pressure seems to be on, he doesn't seem to perform as well.
I agree so far. I mean, admittedly, it's a little sample size so far, but his best performances have come when the platform's set. Even in the Test series, he seemed to score his runs in the second innings when the game was either lost or won by that stage. So there's going to be tougher tests for him to come. But I'm still not worried about him at the moment. I still think there's so much to offer, and he's one of the most talented 21-year-olds I think I've seen really in any
Yeah,
match.
he's incredible. I mean, you just have to look at last game and how good that knock was. Just something I want to put a pin in and come back to in 6 months' time. Let's see what's happening with that. I mean, how much cricket he plays in the next 6 months, you just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen with that Test squad. Will Jacks batting down at number 7, scored 49 today with Joe Root. That partnership of, what was it in the end? 143 they scored. I thought was fantastic. I really like Will Jacks in that number 7 role. I think he could be the new Moeen Ali, and that's a tough pair of shoes to fill, that is, but I really think he could do it.
I think he's got all the attributes because I was very impressed today because he sort of reined in everyone sort of pigeonholed him as a bit of a thrasher at the top of the order because he has done that in franchise leagues and he's been sort of messed around a little bit in the white ball team. He's batted sort of open or 3 or 4, but I really like the idea of him at 7, just to fulfil the Moeen Ali role. The bowling, I think, needs a little bit of work going forward, but the mature head today was really impressive. He let
Yeah,
Root through the striking.
yeah. I mean, when you go to the bowling, and it is. I'm surprised they haven't tried Root more with the ball. I feel like they underutilize him, especially in white ball cricket, because I think he's good for 4 overs. I think you can get 4 overs out of him. As you said, Jax isn't great with the ball. Do you want him to be great with the ball? It would be nice if he could be that Moeen Ali and be a little bit better with his bowling, but it will come with time. I think he's still relatively young. He hasn't quite got to that peak of probably his bowling ability yet, and hopefully he can get a bit better. Because yeah, if you can get Liam Livingston overs out of him, because we obviously moved on from Livingston now, that kind of 5 or 6 overs that are going to go for 6.5, maybe pick up a wicket or two. That's kind of all you want. 1 for 42 from 4 is probably not the way you want to go. And that all gets relatively expensive when you start looking at it like that. It was Joe Root. It was just Joe Root today when it came to the rest of the batting. No one made a 50 apart from Joe Root. In a game where everyone made 50s and no one made a century. In the last game, we go to one man scoring a big century and no one else scoring a 50. One thing I will say, Alzari Joseph looked really good today. He looked
He looked,
really good.
yeah, I've liked him for sort of about a year now, but today was, I think, the best I've ever seen him bowl. The pace was 90 mph on quite a slow Cardiff wicket. The bounce was good. Shea Hope had no hope with a couple of them, those byes for four. But I'm surprised they brought him on. They waited to the 42nd over to bring him back on. I would have liked, if I was a West Indies fan, I would have been screaming at the telly saying, why is he not coming on in like the 35th over when Jackson Root was still a little bit new in the partnership?
Yeah,
Because it showed he came on and broke the partnership and got another wicket.
yeah. I mean, I don't think West Indies were that forward thinking. I think that's one thing that they lack today is just a bit of that nous of, okay, let's try something different. Let's go to a bit of a strange field. And it seems funny that we're praising Harry Brook on doing that, kind of 2 games into his captaincy career. And we're asking Shea Hope, who is incredibly experienced kind of in cricket. I know he hasn't had the captaincy for that long, thinking about it. But just another thought going into it. Harry Brook being relatively young in the role, Shea Hope with bundles of experience for West Indies, franchise cricket around the world, wherever it is. I just thought that he might have tried something different. Bring in a cover that's a little bit shorter to try and get someone for that extra bounce for Alzari Joseph. It was just the same field to every seam bowler, and a little bit of following the ball here and there. So I thought that's where the West Indies lacked a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was those sort of that over. I think it's between over 32 and 42 was when Jackson Root. I think they put on like 80 runs in those 10 overs, and it was mainly Moti, who I think is a good bowler, but he struggled today, and Chase as well. Ford was expensive, but yeah, exactly what you said. They needed to try something different because they just at one stage it was 11% England win fizz, and then it quickly went to 66 after those 10 overs, and they'll be sort of kicking themselves that they enabled Jackson Root to just get the runs easy.
Yeah, and I think that's what Root and Jacks were really clever about the chase of the usual thing of, okay, just keep your wicket and then we'll score 80, 90 off of the last 10. Whereas what they did is they scored that 80, 90 off those kind of middle overs when there was only 4 fielders out, and they had the kind of the bowlers that they knew that they could go and attack, and they had the likes of Jaden Sills and Alzari Joseph to come back into the attack later on in the innings, and say, okay, I want to go at less than a run of ball against those bowlers, but I know that I can take down Moti, Chase, Ford for 7, 8, 9, 10 and over, and doing it that way. I just thought it was very, very clever and outside of the normal thinking of, okay, let's just stay in, let's score at 4, 5 and over and back ourselves to chase down 90 at the back end. I think they were really clever at doing that, and I was really impressed with them. I will say that this England team just seems a little bit happier and a little bit smarter under Harry Brook's captaincy than we were under Joss Butler's.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, that's a sort of testament to Joe Root's sort of match scenario, match awareness, everything you just said, how he knew what bowlers to target, what bowlers he could score off, and yeah, just sort of echoing how amazing the innings was. And yeah, I feel that there's been a clear message now of Harry Brook's captaincy. It's like a complete reset. What's been done has been done. And I know we're only 2 games in and there's going to be tougher tests to come, but so far today was even more impressive because it was, we probably need to mention how bad we were in the field, but to overcome a chase like that after posting 400 on Thursday, it's a good start, in my opinion.
Yeah, the fielding was poor today, but I think sometimes teams just have days in the field like that. The ball, everyone's had days like that playing cricket before, where you drop one or you misfield one, and then the ball follows you for the next 5 overs. Then someone else does it, and someone else gets a bit grumpy, and then you're overthinking everything you're doing in the field, and it can spiral out of control. Whether you're playing on a village green on a Sunday or if you're playing at Sophia Gardens in an ODI. It can happen. It happens in cricket. Cricket is a funny sport, and these lot are incredibly fit and incredibly talented. And I don't really want to look too much into the catching. Apart from the fact that Joe Root seems to keep dropping catches, I'm worried that his eyes are going slightly.
Yeah, Joe Root's he's been a very good slip fielder for years, but I've noticed in the last 18 months he's dropped a few in the slip, and that one that long on he shelled today, he did take one the very next ball. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's more just a blip, a bad day at the office. Ben Duckett, I felt incredibly sorry for because the ball did follow him. He dropped the two very tough chances, but he had that run out where his head was a bit all over the place. And
that run out was a calamity.
Yeah.
That was
Didn't quite know what end to
amazing.
go at, I guess, and just sort of panicked and then just lobbed it so tamely to Butler. But yeah, I think it's more like you said. It's just it can happen in cricket. The good thing was we didn't sort of, despite that, we pegged it back quite well to restrict them to 308 when 350, 360 looked realistic at one stage.
Yeah, it was just West Indies kept trying to attack and they just kept losing wickets. I think it was something like, I think they were 108 for 8 or something like that at the back end of the innings. Like it was nowhere near of what they needed to be. It was really poor from them. But I was impressed by England for that kind of last 15 overs in the field. Well, with the ball more than in the field. And then obviously the partnerships between, I think Brooks 47 was important as well, along with Will Jackson and then obviously Joe Root. But that's a series win for England. We go unassailable 2-0 win. You'd imagine England are going to win the next one. You can't imagine England are going to be, because realistically, it was the fielding that probably let them down. If the Duckett chance goes early and you get rid of Casey Carty for obviously on 10 or whatever it was at the time, this and their 20 for 2, their 300 that they scored could have easily been 220 realistically.
Yeah, but we've got the series win, and yeah, I imagine we'll win on, I think Tuesday's the third test, I believe.
Yeah, Tuesday at the Oval.
Nice.
Be interesting. We're back to 1 o'clock starts. So I don't know what the weather's like. I don't know I know it's meant to be slightly damper next week.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get a game in. But that is the game pretty much wrapped up. Jack, thank you very much for joining me. If you do want to check out all of his channels, all the links will be down in the description and the show notes. We'll be back on Tuesday for another breakdown of the third ODI. So make sure you like, subscribe, drop us a follow on your podcast provider, leave a review, leave a rating, all the usual stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one.